My name is Kwabena Chenche. Many thanks for joining us here on Newsdesk. And with some 78 days to the elections, obviously, you do know that your election headquarters will continue to bring you a lot more comprehensive coverage as far as issues relating to the general polls are concerned. Let's start off on the note of that very exercise that happened over the weekend. It was the 2016 manifesto launch of the governing National Democratic Congress. Now, the failure of a government to fulfill promises in the manifesto should not give grounds for anyone to describe their government as incompetent. That's according to a former minister and ambassador who chairs the NDC's Manifesto Subcommittee on Governance, Professor Danso-Boac. Now, speaking earlier on the AM show today following the launch of the party's 2016 manifesto over the weekend, Professor Danso-Boac said the current manifesto has captured all unfulfilled promises in the party's 2012 manifesto. Hence, it will be erroneous for anyone to describe the government as an incompetent one for failing to fully fulfill all of its promises in the previous manifestos.
Unless you apply a static definition to a manifesto, as long as it remains a set of ideals, programs, policies, proposals, they are subject to change, they are subject to variations. And because they are operating within a system in which you cannot control everything, you have to make room for these kinds of things. I'm not aware of any system that has operated a manifesto within a specific time frame in which all objectives have been attained. If we go back to the origins of manifestos, for instance, some of the big manifestos in the world, you can take in 1776, the U.S. Declaration of Independence constitutes a manifesto. It says we hold these truths to be self-evident and all men are created equal, blah, 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 blah. But were all men at that time created equal in the U.S.? No. Nobody faults them for creating a manifesto that forgot to address those kinds of things or overlooked these kinds of things. You take the 1848 Manifesto of the Communist Party, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Again, the kinds of things they foresaw at the time as compared to what we are seeing today. So manifestos are supposed to be dynamic, and we take cognizance of that fact that, if all things had been equal, of course, we could have built all 200 secondary schools. Knowing what we know now, we had identified over 300 promises that we made to the Ghanaian population. We accomplished most of them. There were a few that, for obvious reasons, we could not. But you see, a manifesto is not a one-time thing. Most of the time, we talk about the manifesto as if it's an end in itself. It's a means to an end. It's a process that we're following. And they also fall within Chapter 6 of the Constitution, the directive principles of state policy. Having been cognizant of that, we looked at those areas that we could not accomplish. We've gone through a previous manifesto. We discovered that out of the 300 promises we made, there are several that we could not attain. And so from 2017 to 2021, we are taking a fresh look at our national budget and see which adjustments we can make in order to complete it. We're not going to go into maybe 2020, where maybe out of the 200 secondary schools we still have a surplus to build. No, we're not going to do that.
On the fight against corruption, the NDC government will show a lot more commitment this time round with the introduction of a new legislation. Let's once more take a listen to Professor Danso-Boac speaking to my colleague Roland Walker on this very issue.
Corruption is a matter of, you can't fight corruption just a matter of laws and whatever.
We've had significant corruption cases that have dogged the NDC administration since 2009.
Well, you see,
could lead to the fall of many administrations in some African democracies.
And this is why we've crafted the anti-corruption.
And you want Ghanaians to take you on this very measure?
Oh yes, oh yes. I'm sure people, if you look at the document carefully, the law carefully, there is a cultural education, cultural reorientation that we're going to be, because we're very quick at pointing fingers at those individuals we perceive to be corrupt. But it's a societal issue. It's a cultural issue. So once we engage in specific cultural educational programs, maybe through the National Center for Civic Education and even syllabus in schools, we can educate children to be very much aware of the effects of the impact of corruption on our society. And so I have full confidence in that aspect of the manifesto. I think this is probably the very first time that we are creating those kinds of institutions and creating the kinds of avenues through which we can educate the public.
So that was Professor Kweku Danso-Boac, who is chairman of the subcommittee on governance and a member of the NDC's manifesto team. Well, they put together that very manifesto. But what does the largest opposition party seeking to unseat the governing party make of this? Anthony Karbo is Deputy Communications Director of the opposition New Patriotic Party. He joins me on phone now with some thoughts on this. Mr. Karbo, good morning. Many thanks for joining us here on News Desk.
Good morning.
Right. So these are the claims, among others, that we've heard the NDC make. And one of the things that has been, should I say, the NPP's trump card over the past few weeks has to do with the fact that, well, the NDC has failed to deliver on majority of its promises over the past 4 years. And based on that, you think the Ghanaian electorate should give you the mandate to govern for the next 4 years. Well, the party, that's the NDC, they are saying that that is not enough basis for anyone to be voted out of power. Do you share the same opinion?
Well, I think that the level of incompetence has become so spectacular, and the president. If you look at what they promised the Ghanaian people in 2008 and what they have delivered in 2016, very clear that Ghana's educational sector is going through some of these difficulties, largely in part because of the incompetent management of the economy, the point where teachers in this country can certainly go in months of payment arrears and difficulties in getting their rural allowance. This has affected education at both the basic level and the secondary, right up to the tertiary level. So clearly, education has become so expensive under this government, the socialist government for that matter. I mean, entry into senior secondary school education is now beyond the reach of the poor. And these are the problems and the lack of facilities. And the fact that this government promised in 2000 they were going to build 50 schools every year, and by 2016 they would have completed building these schools. It is a situation when you find them admitting that, yes, they have only built less, but it is not enough grounds to get them out of office. We have no time to continue to entertain this government that has been in power for 8 years and has failed to deliver. We need to bring in a competent government, a competent leader, and a competent leader who will put together qualified who can fix this problem and get our children the most quality education so they can compete with the rest of the world. That is currently the Ghanaian people are hoping for. But if you look at what this government talked about in terms of corruption, I heard the insert. It is very sad that before this government, right before this government, they are supposed to retrieve corrupt monies that have been paid to individuals who are not deserving of these payments. They haven't had the moral courage to fight corruption. If you think about the problems that SADA has been engulfed with and the monies that have been illegally paid to people, they haven't retrieved those money. Okay. Mr. Wyoming is still in possession of 51 million
just a second.
Taxpayers' money.
Okay.
And these are serious issues that have huge implications on development programs and activities of the government.
Right. Kabo, we'll be delving some more into the issue of corruption that you've touched on, but let's return to that very previous sound clip which you are reacting to. And it's as if the NPP is pretty hard on the NDC in areas where they have failed to perform over the period. On the other hand, the party, should I say government, has also performed astonishingly well in other areas. For instance, with the issue of provision of books, textbooks to schools, well, they say that they have been able to provide about more than 2 million books to pupils. And in fact, this is much more than we even need. So on that basis, well, they've also been able to surpass many of our expectations. So why do you not judge them on that as well?
I think that it's important. This exercise book provision must continue. Start with this government. I mean, previous governments have been supplying textbooks to schools to improve education at the basic and secondary levels, and so that kind of policy must be continued. But you also need to look at other areas. For instance, when they promised that they were going to get the school feeding program to cover all schools in the country. The question you ask yourself is, 8 years on, have they achieved in that direction? Certainly not. They haven't. The school feeding program has been bedeviled with major issues of corruption, conflict of interest, and the fact that even the quality of food that is given to our kids. And all these things are part of the gamut of what makes education quality. So we cannot continue to single out things that, are continuous programs which every government must provide, and then say that we should praise you on the back for that. The generality of the educational sector of this country needs to be looked at and properly analyzed, and we have done the analysis, and we have come out. We are telling the Ghanaian people that, look, education, even at the basic level, has become so expensive. It has become difficult for many parents to pay for their wards to get into secondary schools, and these are the challenges. Many of the schools are overcrowded, and the government hasn't delivered. Out of the 200, they have delivered less than 10. Now, if these people need 8 years to deliver 10 schools, then how many more years do they need to deliver the rest of the 90 schools that are left?
What they say in reference to that is that, well, there are 123 schools that are at various stages of completion. So just to put that on record.
I mean, they have never shown us where these 123 schools are talking about. We have been told that they have only secured construct 23, and this was put out by the minister. And so this figure that is being bandied around, the president himself had occasion to eat the humble pie and admit that indeed, look, we couldn't achieve it, and found some very flimsy reasons to give for that. So I think that is a settled matter as far as the public eye is concerned. What is important is the fact that even teachers, when we promised the Teacher First policy in 2008, we knew exactly what we were doing, because we knew that the people who can deliver this quality education are the teachers, and so they must be at the center of delivering of our educational policy. And now today the government turns around and say, oh, well, we are also coming to do something about teachers. And these are all borrowed ideas, because when you borrow an idea, you fail to understand the reasoning, the thought process, and how the commitment levels are in delivering this particular policy. But be that as it may, the Ghanaian people can make a better judgment. Other stakeholders in the educational sector, for instance, the teacher movement, will agree that this government has been a spectacular failure as far as education is concerned. Teachers are struggling, difficulties at the local level to even deliver nursery education is on its knees. And so people begin to question, what is this quality you talk about, when even at the basic levels in the rural communities, children never get to see toys to play with? And these are the formative ages. These are the ages where they develop their imagination, and they need all these things at the basic level. This is why we are promising that, look, we will make the teacher the central focus of our educational policy in a way that the teachers themselves will be happy, they will be well remunerated, their rural allowances will be given, and therefore there will be a commitment to ensuring that our younger ones are properly taken care of. When the teacher is happy, education will grow, our people will learn properly, there will be commitment, and our prime focus is to pay attention to the concerns of teachers.
The NPP believes that the Governing National Democratic Congress has not done enough when it comes to the fight against corruption. And you cited a few of the instances. Well, to a large extent, based on the interaction we had with Professor Danso-Boac, well, indeed, the party admits that they may not have fought it to the best of their ability. But now, he's saying, and indeed the party is saying, that given another 4-year mandate, they will be showing a lot more commitment to the fight against corruption with the inclusion of certain legislative instruments in their manifesto. They're going to ensure that a lot more transparency is brought to bear, and people...
Yes. That is the fear. The fear is to give a government and a president another 4 years when he knows he's not going into an election in 2020. At that point, it is not about what you say because he has no electoral fortunes at heart. That is why we can't give this government another 4 years. It is dangerous, it is risky, it would be tipping Ghana into the early stages of democratic dictatorship if this government continues with administration in 2016. That is the fear, because, look, what is going to be the motivation to fight corruption when you have no electoral gains ahead of you? What is going to be? I mean, you should answer that question. What is going to be their motivation? Today, even while before this election, they are unable to retrieve money that belong to the taxpayer. I mean, Wyoming is still in possession of monies that were wrongfully paid, as the Supreme Court posited. You understand? You think about what has happened with SADA, you think about what has happened with JIDA, you think about what has happened with all these monies, water bills, that are currently in private pockets. What will happen if they win the 2016 election? That is the fear of the Ghanaian, and that is why we must never give this government another 4 years.
Okay.
They are certainly not committed to fighting corruption. If they were, they would have a lot of money that could have been channeled into basic development for our people in terms of water provision and, of course, investing in education.
Your party is later today meeting the media at 4 p.m. What is it that you are going to say to us? Are you going to debunk
I think that you must
that
prepare for a lot more of these engagements from the party and the national campaign. We are going to be speaking to the country through various forums, and today's event is one of such a fora where the party will be speaking to the country on major policy issues.
In other words, you'll be giving us highlights of your manifesto, in other words.
Come again?
In other words, you will be giving us highlights of your manifesto.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not too sure if that is what this press conference is all about. We are not in the business of highlighting the manifesto. The manifesto will be duly launched. The country will be told what direction we are taking them through and what kind of policies we are putting forth before the country and the commitment to delivering those promises. And that is what will happen when the manifesto is being launched. But today, we are going to speak to the country about certain raving issues in the nation, and I think that we can only wait for the party to speak, and then we can take a cue from that.
Anthony Karbo, many thanks for your time on News Desk this morning, and he's the Deputy Communications Director for the opposition New Patriotic Party, and he's been speaking to quite a number of issues as far as the NDC manifesto is concerned. We'll be bringing you a lot more on this in subsequent bulletins, but as you heard him rightly say, well, they will be meeting the media later today at 4 p.m. We're bringing you live coverage of that event as well right here on your election headquarters. Let's take a break. When we come back, we delve into some other issues. Topmost amongst them has to do with that issue of the bus rapid transit system that has compelled the members of the Committed Drivers Association to embark on, some are describing it, a wild goose chase. We'll be back after this. Many thanks for staying with us here on News Desk. Let's do some other stories now. And after threatening a nationwide strike last Wednesday, the Committed Drivers Association of Ghana has made good on its word of embarking on a strike. Today, members of the association chose to stay away from their vehicles and ultimately passengers who required their services. Well, Derek Ekosam has been monitoring the impact of that very action by the committed drivers and has come through with his report.
So last week when the president announced the introduction of the BRT buses to operate in some parts of the country to ease traffic and also to ease the pressure on commuters, some agitated. They said they were against the implementation of the policy because according to them, they will be rendered jobless should these buses start operating. They threatened to strike on Monday. Now Monday is here with us and I am at this Nungwa station here at Obrasport. When I came here on Thursday to speak with some of the drivers, they said that, well, they will possibly join the action. But today I'm here and I'm seeing that they are working. The passengers come in, they board the buses and they go their way. I have Eric here and I have Noah here as well. They will explain why they earlier said they'll join the actions, but today they are not on strike.
Yeah, I've heard about this since last week, but we are working. We've never had any letter from our National Secretariat before we shall go any strike, we have to take letter from our head before we can do so.
But when I came here on Thursday, I spoke to some of your drivers. They said that, well, though they were yet to get confirmation from their leadership, they would individually embark on strike.
Yeah, many of them are not here, so I believe that they have started that.
Okay, so it's more like it's a mixed bag. Or we have some drivers here who are working and some drivers who are not here.
Yeah, yes, we have them. Many are working. Yeah,
So looking at those who are not here and those who are here, which number is bigger?
Those who are out are bigger than those who are in.
So it means that some of your members are on strike?
Yeah, some members are on strike. But with the union head, we are not on strike. We are waiting for the letter before we can do any action.
Okay, so the union heads say they are waiting for a letter from their authority before they embark on strike. But you are one of the drivers here. Did you hear about the strike?
No, I'm not here about the strike. I'm now here about that strike. But since I'll hear the strike, I'm also going to join them. From here, I'm not come back again.
So where will you load to?
I'm loading to Circuit to Nungwa.
And when you go to Nungwa, you won't come back again?
No.
But if you come, what will happen to the passengers?
The government say you have brought the buses. So I have to take the buses to bring them.
But the buses will not start working until next month or maybe 2 months from today.
If the buses come, it's for our work. That's why even our cars is plenty. Now the work spoil and you're going to break another buses. So you collapse the job.
But the government says that it is thinking about the people so that when the buses come, the people can move to their workplaces, to their schools early because the trot was delayed.
Before the government buses come, the people are not going to work. The students are not going to school. Which car are taking them before you thinking about them? The people are stranded about the bus. They are not stranded. We have already operated day and night to break them, to send them. So why is it going to break back to spare our work? I'm going to support my people.
So from here you won't work again?
No.
But you lose some money.
What? I'm lose some money. If you think about that, always they'll fool you.
Okay.
The government, if you think that the government is going to fool you, always. If fool us already and going to bring another bus to spoil our work, and you say I'm losing money for what? No.
Thank you, Noah. But Eric,
yes, sir.
So now your drivers,
yeah,
they are on strike, but you are working. Why? Are you not supposed to be supporting them?
I have to support them, but as I told you, I'm under somebody. But I have to wait for that person to tell me to do before I do.
But they are also under you, and it appears that they are doing what they want to do.
Oh no, they are not doing. If you are here and you come on scale, I know what to tell you and you work.
So it's a bag of mixed reactions here at the Obra Sports Nungwa station. He's a union head, that's Eric. He says that because he's not heard any confirmation from his authorities, the GPRT leaders, he's not striking. But Noah says that as for him, he didn't hear it on time, and so afterwards he would just park his buses and not come to work anymore. Eric tells me that some drivers are actually not here today, so though we have some people here commuting or taking the passengers to their places, there are some other drivers who are on strike. Let's get to some other stations and see what the situation is like over there. All right, so I've been going around some stations here at Kwame Nkrumah Circle. In fact, this is the 5th station I've been to, and it appears that the drivers are working. We have the Pro-Tour drivers, some GPRT drivers who are working today. According to them, late Saturday night, they had a circular from the authorities not to join the commuter drivers on their strike today. So from what I've seen today, the drivers are working, the passengers are being taken to their various destinations, and it appears that not everybody is on strike, or not every driver is on strike. My name is Derek. I call Sam.
So that was a report by my colleague Derek Ekosam, and he toured a few places, and this is what he found when he visited those areas. Not all the members, even members of the Commuter Drivers Association, not all of them are even on this very action. And for many, it's a bit worrying when a move geared towards getting equality or getting access for a bigger body or a larger body is treated in this very manner, because we do know that members such as Pro-Tour, the GRTCC, as well as the GPRT, well, they are all drivers, and with this, with the coming into fruition of this bus rapid transit system, some would have thought that these very concerns that are being raised by the Commuter Drivers Association would have been shared by all these other members or these other colleagues, but apparently they do not share in that very regard. We are trying the lines to get in touch with the Public Relations Officer for the Ghana Committed Drivers Association, Francis Appiah. We've been unsuccessful so far. If we're able to get him, we'll bring back to you that very conversation and find out from him really what the problem is. How come not everybody seems to be adhering to that directive of getting these buses off the streets? We'll bring you more subsequently. But away from that now, and doctors at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital are reporting of increased number. They're reporting of an increased number of cases that have to do with defects in certain individuals. Well, it has to do with anal defects. There's a report by Kwesi Debra, who has been following this very issue. We can now take a listen to that very one.